So if you've ever wanted to know how to build a fuel tank from scratch, this is the video. Here we go.
Do some whacking.
Someone said it's a tiny depth.
Bit of a tight budget on this one.
Okay, so this is the fuel tank I was telling you about. We're going to make and replace. It's quite dodgy how it's sort of sitting in there. Like, I mean, that's the return line from the injectors. You would have thought that'd need to be a bit better. And this was only just sitting there, so and it's jammed in there. So it does have a little bit of fuel in it. Get it out of the bench. Surprised it actually worked, but I'm sure the old guy that had it, he loved it. So I've got to replicate that, but not so dodgy looking, and actually make it so it works. It's got some pretty nasty scratches there. So it was only a matter of time and it was going to rub through. So what we'll do is, got some sheet cut, and we'll just put a couple of folds in it and make it all happen. So let's get into it. Here we go. So here's a basic sketch up of the fuel tank. Nothing exciting, no round corners, nothing fancy. So it should be relatively easy. Now what I've gone and done to make the job a whole lot easier is I've just got a big long strip of steel, 1.6 mil hot rolled, nothing special, and it's just a big long piece. Actually it's just cut off of a 1800. So, but what I'll do is if I use the height as an example, there's 4 sides, which, you know, pretty simple. So if I just get the strip at 260, which it is, I've got it cut at 260 high, I've just got to mark along, you know, the first one at 210, put a mark, and then the next one at 390, and then 210, and then 390, and I've got 4 sides. All I've got to do is put a fold in it. I don't need to do any other cuts or anything like that. So I'll just mark along, go 210, 390, 210, 390, and in reality I've got all the sides for the tank other than the bottom and the top. So now what I've also got is this strip here, which is 210 wide. So all I got to do is cut a piece off of this strip at 390 long. It's already at 210 for a top and a bottom. So I just cut 2 of those pieces and we've got all the bits already done. And I'll just use the little folding machine that I got, homemade folding machine, and I'll fold these sides up. So I'll just mark this out and then I'll take it over to the folder, and we'll pretty much have all the material ready for our tank, and then we just got to weld it all together. Other than a baffle, I'll put a baffle or 2 in there. Not that I really need it. I think I've calculated it out. It'll be roughly about 21 litres of fuel, which is a fair bit for a little 2-cylinder diesel. So anyway, let's mark it out and fold her up, and we'll be laughing. Here we go. That wasn't so hard, was it? So this bit's just sitting there. That's just one of those pieces that I cut off before. So we now have basically a fuel tank. So we just got to hold that together. So we just hold that out there and a couple of tacks all the way along. And use those two bits there that I cut off of this long strip here. Weld one on the bottom, put a baffle in. We're pretty much nearly done. So the easy way to cut this, unless you've got a guillotine, which I don't, but I got someone to cut these strips, is use the old electric shears. That model there cuts up to 3.2. It's a bit of a struggle, but it'll certainly cut through it. But the 1.6, you just got to sort of, it's like a pair of scissors, you got to hold one side up and you can cut through it. But I got there. So I'll set this back up on the tripod and do a bit of welding. Actually, no, I'll cut a baffle first, or two small ones. Cut a couple of baffles and then we can do some welding. So here we go. So we have a box all welded on the outside. Does that look alright? There's no holes, there's a little bit undercuts. You can see the minute amount on the undercut there. But that's why I welded the inside as well. And because I'm going to grind this flush on the outside so it looks neat and tidy. So she's fully welded inside. For the actual part that holds the fluid, and you saw me cutting out these ugly looking things. Well, they're baffles. I'll sit down in there. Get them to work. There we go. Not stop the flow. Yep. So they won't stop the flow, they'll just sort of restrict it from going crazy, if you know what I mean. So I'll get those in place. That doesn't need to be all the way full height, so because of the top little bit. And a baffle in a tank is just to stop it from swooshing one side to the other in a big hurry. And with them, it probably won't matter so much with this one. I could probably just get away with one, but I've already cut two. So, but what the purpose of a baffle, and you'll see it in every tank, every fuel reservoir in a motor vehicle, is to stop the swoosh of there's another technical name for it. I think it's called load shifting. So where this is only 21 kilos, so roughly it's about 21 litres, so it's roughly about 20 kilos of weight, and So we don't really want it to throw from one side to the other if you're going around a corner, more so with a car because it's more violent, as you could say. But the baffles stop all of that, so I could nearly not even do any, but I'm going to put these two in because I've just making one so you guys can see what actually goes on with a fuel tank. So I'll pop these two in. The top, if I can get it off, I've got this. Here's the actual sheet for the top, so that'll sit on top here. That's a bit noisy. So I'll weld that on, and this is just the spout off a fuel tank. So there's no fuel residue in there at all, and that will just sit right in the middle. And I'll actually cut a big hole in there, so if someone's got a big fuel can to sit there, it'll be easy to pour. And we've just got a standard old cap, and it just happens to say diesel, so that'll be perfect on there, and it'll fit under the bonnet perfectly. That's why I didn't make it full height, because the bonnet, it's about here somewhere, so we'll have plenty of height. And I'm going to make up on the lathe a little spigot and drill a hole and weld it in the bottom there for the feed to the injector pump, and then just put a little tiny spigot in the top here for the return from the injectors. So it always needs a return and a breather. Actually, I think this cap, yes, this cap has a breather built in, so if the tank actually has is left out in the sun, the air will still be able to expand. So it'll be right. That's why I made this out of 1.6 mil instead of 1 mil material. So it's 16 gauge instead of 20 gauge. Mainly because it won't crush and shrink as it gets hot and cold and weather changes and things like that. So I will be painting the outside after I grind it and everything. May or may not be in this video, but it'll all be tidy and ready for mounting in the tractor. Anyway, I'll drill a hole in the top, weld that little spigot on there, and I'll whip over the lathe and we'll make those the exit point that goes into the injector pump. So anyway, here we go. So we're going to use the old lathe today to make these barbs up. I've just got a bit of 10 mil bar in the old chuck there, and the fuel hose I'm using, this one's a 5/16 for the main feed to the injector pump, and the other one is 3/16. It's a return line from the injectors back into the top. So I'll just whoop this up on the old lathe, and I'll weld them into the tank. So here we go. That's all ground up and ready to go. So I've made those two little barbs on the old lathe, and one's going to go, the feed's going to go on the bottom. I'll just drill through the bottom of that once I've welded that on, and the return can go up here. I'll put a little mark there. So that's about where it's going to sit. I'll weld them on and drill it through, and hopefully I got no leaks. So here we go. So that, my friends, is a completed fuel tank from start to finish. Just out of flat sheet metal and a little bit of round bar and just an old spout off an old filler cap. Actually, it was off an old Hilux. So it's very suitable. And a little feed line to the whatsy. I just used lots of heat when welding those, so there was less chance of anything ever getting through there. So I will pressure check it. I'll do that off camera, and the next time you'll see this will be on the machine. So if you go to your metal merchant, and they'll be able to cut your sheet to the right size that you need, and then you'll be able to make it up. If you've got a MIG welder, it'll make it so much easier. TIG is fine. So guys, if you like this video and this kind of content, give us a thumbs up, that'd be awesome. And subscribe if you like, and you'll be able to catch up the rest of the build on this little old tractor. So if you subscribe, and you'll be able to catch up with all the other content that I make. So guys, if you like it and you want to help out the channel, if you have a look, there's a link down below in the description for buy me a coffee. If you feel like buying me a coffee, I try and have a coffee every day. It's pretty good. So guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one, eh? See ya.